What's up, guys? This is Jack here. I am in the car on my way to the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone. I figured a vlog would be the best means of conveying this protest, as this is a rather performative action that I'm about to undertake, in which I'm a little bit distracted. So I feel kind of like a Vice News reporter headed into a situation that I really don't know what is going on. Today is the 6-month anniversary of George Floyd's death, and there is a protest happening tonight in Cal Anderson Park, in which people will be, I don't know, it was a very vague protest that I heard about on Twitter. This is my first time home in a while, and I've heard a lot about the autonomous zone on the news. I was just talking to my parents about it, and they're not all that happy about me going here. It's actually technically disbanded. It's not even an autonomous zone or an organized protest. It's just Cal Anderson Park. But yeah, it's kind of a complicated situation we have there. We've had multiple shootings and stabbings happen there. A person pretty recently was stabbed. I don't feel particularly involved with this protest, but I figured that it would be the best idea to just show up and see what's going on there. And yeah, a lot of people have made the claim that the Black Lives Matter movement over the summer was much more powerful, and more people were involved in it. But there's a chance that it could be a pretty powerful thing to see. A lot of people gathering around and really showing that they still care about the issue, even in the cold and the dark, on a kind of wet, dreary Seattle late November day. I'm a little bit conflicted that I'm doing this. Like, I probably wouldn't be doing this if it weren't for this class, which I think is a little questionable. I mean, I have attended Black Lives Matter protests in the past, but never really one in a place that has seen so much violence in the past few months. So I don't know. A lot of conflicting thoughts in my head going into this. I'm gonna go park at my former high school, which is really right next to the what was the autonomous zone, then the organized protest, and is now what is formerly known as the autonomous zone. It's weird to see this neighborhood. A lot of massive housing developments have popped up everywhere. It's an extremely gentrified neighborhood. Not many people out at 6:45 in the dark. This is Pike and Broadway now. All the windows seem to be boarded up on pretty much every single business around. Parking in my high school parking lot, which is a few blocks away. Hurry down there. Protest officially starts at 7. All right. So yeah, here we are on Capitol Hill. Probably shouldn't be filming once I get closer to the actual thing, so I'll check back in a little while. But yeah, here's the area. A few boarded up windows. Not much going on. Seems like a pretty normal night. Here's the infamous East Precinct, which has a full concrete barrier in front of it. That's interesting to see. They've taken all of the spray paint off of it. It is wiped clean and fully defended like a fortress. That's interesting. noticed at this point that the message of the protest was largely lost. I had come to the protest expecting to see unity within the group, as I had seen during the summer's Black Lives Matter protests, but what I saw instead was a lot of anger, deep despair, and desperation within the crowd. I should note that at this point in the protest, an indigenous activist who claimed to be a relative of John T. Williams, a deaf indigenous man who was shot for standing on the sidewalk with a carving knife, had a megaphone and was chanting various chants regarding indigenous rights. He was quickly silenced by a few white members of the group who told him that he couldn't have a megaphone in the crowd. And after kind of a shoving match with a couple people, he decided to leave the protest. It was at this point that I was pretty fully disillusioned by any significance of the protest and was seriously considering stepping out, but the adrenaline in me kept me going with the group to see how things played out in the end, and I stuck with it.
I am Sergeant Moore with the Seattle Police Department. I am now issuing a public safety order to disperse, and I command all those...
You are not good people! You are not good people!
Y'all break the law every day and get away with it! Because of your uniform! Fuck you!
We film you!
Come on! Fuck you!
I got your back, I got your back! 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 Let's not. People!
That's why we're here, assholes!
Protect people!
It's time for you to pay the piper!
What is your name and badge
When
number?
a person asks for your badge number and fucking name...
What is your name and badge number?
You know you can't do anything!
8583 That's Officer Longo's 8583.
Because you're dead inside! You can't do anything right! Get out! Get out! Get out! Get out, Nazis! You're American Nazis! Get out!
I found it pretty interesting at this point that really none of what anyone was saying had anything to do with George Floyd or with Black Lives Matter or with the issue of police brutality, really. It seemed like people were more focused on themselves and their personal associations with the police, and in a largely white crowd I found this to be a little bit uncomfortable for me to see that these people were really making this their own issue and not what the protest had started out as, which was a Black Lives Matter protest. Regardless, I did find the police response at this point to be a little bit excessive. It was a lot of police officers at this point in full riot gear, all kind of chasing us through this park, and it seemed to be a little bit of an intimidation tactic, which I understand it is their job, but they went pretty far. I was pretty overwhelmed by the antagonistic nature of this interaction between two groups of people. It was pretty intense, and definitely got the adrenaline running. Generally, the polarization tactics that these kinds of protests bring out, though, are really significant in that even though I wasn't really inclined to violence, I kind of had to walk with the people who were committing violent acts. So I found that really interesting, that I was polarized into a very radical position very quickly, just through my direct contact with the police.
You commit murder in the street! Most of you don't even wear fucking masks! How the fuck do you sleep at night?
Just go home and fuck with kids already.
Hey, Trip! Hey, don't fall! Hey, watch your ankle! Watch your ankle! Yeah!
I hope you fall in the fucking blackberry bush.
You are bad people!
You all right, jackass?
You are bad people! Get the fuck out of our community! Get the fuck!
Everyone hates you. That's just no bullying. You guys are fucking human beings. You're fucking disgusting.
You are a fucking monster! What's up, Don?
A lot just happened. I've never had a run-in with the police quite like that. It started off, I didn't really think an actual protest was going to happen. Then more people gathered around 7:30, 8. There was just a big discussion after the protest. People were debating whether certain businesses should be smashed. The first window was a Starbucks, in which they shattered it, and a few other, a small business was targeted too. There's a lot of white people, pretty much entirely white, led by about 3 Black Lives Matter activists who were black. We left from Cal Anderson Park, quickly formed into a group. Everyone had to get onto the street. We could not be on the sidewalk. That was made clear. We had to stay in a very tight group, or else you were kicked out of it. And I wanted to experience the thing and stand in solidarity with them. So I joined the group, and we began to walk down the street. It was pretty quickly we were tailed by police. People quickly started to branch off from the group and pull down construction barriers, garbage cans, large trash bins, and then pull them into the street. We walked down Broadway, where I am right now, and the police tailed us. They broke up the crowd about 3 separate times. Protesters managed to stay together despite that. Weird to be in a neighborhood that you grew up in and see it so different. Definitely witnessed the clash between more performative and less performative activists happening. There were some very performative people who were trying to live stream the event, who were kicked out multiple times. One woman who I think was a counter-protester got removed from the crowd. She continued to try to rejoin the group and was screamed at multiple times. So yeah, I couldn't really film any of it except that one part in which people were filming the cops when the cops surrounded us once we reached Volunteer Park. And in Volunteer Park, the cops on bikes, cops in full riot gear walking with paintball guns, tear gas. They didn't actually use any of that, luckily, but it was scary. I definitely was afraid. When the cops tried to break up the crowd by moving in on us and screaming, charging on bikes into the crowd, they arrested 4 people throughout the time. They were targeted arrests. People who had smashed windows they took note of and singled them out in the crowd and quickly removed them. I don't know. It's going to be rough being in class in 8 hours from now. But yeah, here we are. It's important, I think, to experience a protest like that. I don't know if I'm going to do it again. But all that aside, I definitely have a much lower opinion of the police in general now, seeing how they deal with these things. It was very aggressive the way that they handled this crowd. Like, I felt personally targeted a number of times. I had cops on bikes charging me. A guy brandished pepper spray in my face once, and that was just unwarranted. I was just walking. Other people were throwing bricks and smashing windows, but I was not. So I don't know, like, we do have a right to walk down the street, so that was something to experience. I've never really had a negative personal interaction with a cop myself, having generally been a very law-abiding citizen. So it was interesting.